In maintaining a mandate to promote literary arts in the Virgin Islands, the Department of Culture continues to offer assistance to local authors in launching their books through book launch ceremonies. Today, the Department of Culture collaborates with writer, editor, and lecturer Richard Georges to promote the book launching ceremony for his debut collection, Make Us All Islands. The history of the collection is submerged in the ever-shifting currents of the ocean and narratives of long-forgotten migrations, shipwrecks, and the personal, with a vivid and sensual aesthetic that is located in the contested spaces between the sea and the shore. For the Department of Information and Public Relations and the Ministry of Education and Culture, I am your GIS host, Bria Smith. And on this program, Director of Culture, Mrs. Luce Hodge Smith, and writer, editor, and lecturer, Dr. Richard Georges, join me to discuss the highly anticipated launch of the debut collection, Make Us All Islands, scheduled to be launched on Thursday, March 9th, right here at Fishlock Hall at the Botanic Gardens. Mrs. Hodge Smith, Dr. Richards, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Georges, can you provide us with a little insight into the collection? What inspired you to write the novel?
Well, actually, my doctoral studies were focused on the role the sea plays in the Caribbean, in Caribbean poetry in general, and specifically in three Caribbean poets: Kamal Brathwaite from Barbados, Derek Walcott from St. Lucia, and Dion Brand from Trinidad via Canada. And I also looked at the poetry of some BVI poets, namely Alpheus Norman from Anegada at the turn of the century, and Verna Penmore, who is still with us and still writing, thankfully, today. So out of that study, I started working on a collection that would accompany my critical work that really explored Virgin Islands history through the prism or through its interaction with the sea. And from there also I meandered a bit from the time of the indentured, or the liberated Africans rather, into the time of migration to the Dominican Republic with the Los Cocolos, and more contemporary times and myself, my own interactions with the sea and what it means for my own personal history.
So what are the contents from the collection? How does it relate specifically to Virgin Islands history?
Okay, well, the first movement of the of Make Us All Islands is focused on some narratives that are written around the indentured Africans, specifically the ones that settled eventually in Kingston area. And I utilized the work by Dr. Patricia Turnbull in Candy Stone's talk, where there are a couple narratives that she's unearthed, and I use a sort of linguistic device in the poetry where I kind of extract pieces out of written documents as well as the narratives of the Africans who were liberated, you know, to kind of construct some narrative poems that sort of try to retell their story in a poetic form.
Hodge Smith, the Department of Culture's primary responsibility is the preservation of Virgin Islands cultural heritage. How does the department facilitate that preservation through the collection of Dr. Georges' book, Make Us All Islands?
Well, Bria, as you know, we've been doing these book launch ceremonies for quite some time now. So far that's been our only way of assisting the authors with their books. But we have some plans to expand our efforts a bit more to highlight the works of our local authors. We are planning to have a book fair later on in the year in September for World Literacy Day. And there we will feature our local authors and their books in one area and do probably some additional activities. But in addition to that, we also invite the authors when they are approaching us about assisting them with launching their books. We also insist that a copy of their book is presented to the archives unit and the library services department. So there, in terms of preservation, in providing their work, their books, making it available to other persons who can't necessarily purchase a copy of the book. So they can, view it from the archives unit or from the library services department. It's available for them to read, or students who are doing research in poetry or local authors, they can find the book at the library services department as well. Yeah.
So how is this assistance expected to enhance the relationship between individuals involved in the arts, specifically through literary arts and the Department of Culture?
Well, we have a very good relationship with the local authors since we have been assisting, or sometimes we host, we organize fully the book launch with the author, and sometimes we assist the author. And in this case, we're assisting Dr. Georges with his book launch ceremony. And it's a good feeling because we've established such a good relationship with the local authors that Mr. Georges, being a first-time author with his first book, he reached out to us. So it goes to show that we have been doing good, and our work and our assistance have been appreciated by the local authors. So what we do is we assist them with the invitations, we assist with programs in printing these items. We also assist in other areas. For example, if they need a venue, we will organize for the venue, for the setup. Most of the work, of course, is done by the author because they decide how the program is going to be done on the particular day, and they decide who will appear on their program, etc. So we have a really good relationship with the authors, and it's growing. And it's growing, and I know when we're deciding to start planning for the book fair that we're going to have, I'm very confident that they are going to participate in that.
Dr. Georges, I know your book, Make Us All Islands, have been featured in The Guardian. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Oh, well, I was actually pretty surprised. The Trinidad Guardian and their Sunday supplement in the end of January, I believe, listed my book as one of the four Caribbean books to look out for this year. So I was pretty excited when I saw that, especially since I'm going to be in Trinidad in April for the Boca Lit Fest, which is one of the larger book festivals in the Caribbean, and they've put me on the program for a launch and reading. So I'm very appreciative for the support I've received from them and from the USVI in Puerto Rico, where I have events scheduled over the course of this year.
Which poem in the collection is your favorite?
It's like asking a parent, which child is their favorite. I think the last poem in the book, which is also the last poem I wrote for this collection, is called Oceans. And I think right now, I think that might be my favorite poem.
Why?
It's sort of a way of tying a lot of these themes together, both in terms of the sort of like our ancestral connections to the sea, as well as what it can mean for us personally now. And Oceans, I think, is probably my most effective poem in really tying all those various threads together in one.
Can you take us through the creative process? I understand that the collection is related to the sea and the ocean, but how did you come up with the title?
The title actually appears in one of the poems in the book, and I think, as is often with authors, I had several titles. I had a title I started off with, and I was sure that was going to be it. And the process of writing the book, sort of evolves that thinking process. And eventually, I felt that line, "Make Us All Islands," spoke best to what the book was. I thought it was provocative, especially if you hadn't yet read the book. But I think once, taking the book as a whole, I think that line really captures the essence of it, which is why I ended up going with that title as opposed to the 3 or 4 titles I had previously.
So how long have you been writing?
In general, a long time. I would say about 20 years. In terms of writing seriously, I think in the past 5 or 6 years, I've been very seriously working on the craft of poetry. I've always written poetry, but I would say probably about 2012, 2011, with my first major publication, is when I started taking poetry, you know, a bit more seriously than I had in the past.
What can we expect from you in the future?
In the future, well, right now I write articles on my personal website, on my blog, that focus on literature, the arts, and culture in the BVI, and a little bit of society, social issues, and not very regularly, but I would say probably every 3 or 4 months, I put out a think piece, if you will, on social issues and the arts in the BVI. My second collection has been accepted for publication with Platypus Press, and also in the UK. This book is published by Shazeman Books, also in the UK. And so that book is scheduled for 2018 release, February 2018. So a little over a year from now, I'll be celebrating the launch of the second book. And after that, who knows? I might dabble in some fiction, and we'll see where it takes me.
What advice would you give to aspiring writers?
Read.
Read.
Read a lot. Write. But I think you can't become a better writer without reading good writing. So a poet who doesn't read poetry, is not really a poet. Like a musician who doesn't listen to music, would be the analogy I would make. So I would highly recommend anybody who is interested in writing anything, that they become a voracious reader of that thing that they write, whether it's poetry, fiction, essays, whatever it is. The way to become better at it really starts off with reading, finding writers who you admire and figuring out what it is about their writing you actually admire, and then trying to develop that element within your own work.
Well said. Well said. Mrs. Hodge-Smith, how can aspiring writers seek the assistance from the Department of Culture?
Just give us a call. Mr. George's call was very pleasant when he called to ask how we can assist him, because like I said, he had already started the ball rolling in terms of planning, setting his date and his venue, etc., etc. So we don't know who's writing. We didn't know Mr. Georges was writing a book until he gave us a call. So if there are aspiring authors out there and they have an idea of when they're going to complete their book and when it's going to be published, because of course it has to be already published in order for us to launch it. So, they just approach us and let us know what their plans are. And we will continue to have this program because mainly we want to share. We want to share the information about the author, about their work, and to promote their work so that persons will purchase their books, as well as just assisting and encouraging the authors. And once you have this book out, okay, what am I going to do with it? How do I get the help to get it out there and to show people that it's available and to promote it? They may not have the funds, and this is where we come in. So anyone that's willing to do a book, we do have a policy, of course, where we focus mainly on local authors. But if expatriates want to launch a book through us, it must have something to do about the BVI. So those are just the policies that we have. And the other one is it must be published through a reputable publisher, and it must have an ISBN number, etc., etc. So those are the things that we look for in a book when we decide that we're going to launch it. So anyone that's aspiring, once you bring the book in, and I think there was a bit of a challenge the other day when we were called about an erotic book. I was like, I don't think so. So we may have to change the policy and include that, because it may not be of good taste for the general public that we serve. So yeah, just to say, bring the book in, and we will work with the author and start the planning to get their publication out. Yeah.
So how can persons purchase the book, or how can persons find your previous work? Because you did mention you have a blog and a website.
Yeah. It's on Amazon, and actually I discovered the other day that Amazon's already shipping it, so you can buy it and have it delivered via Amazon now on BarnesandNoble.com, Wordery, and the Book Depository. All those websites are providing it. If you go to the Amazon page and you click on my author page, I also have a Kindle book, also a novella that's available for purchase as well. Like I said, my second collection will be coming out in 2018. So those are the three titles I've completed, and two are available right now. And I'll let you know if something else pops up later on. But Amazon is probably the best bet.
Thank you, Dr. Georges. Thank you, Mrs. Hodge-Smith. It has been a pleasure having you with us.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
On this program, I have been speaking with the Director of Culture, Mrs. Luz Hodge-Smith, and writer, editor, and lecturer, Dr. Richard Georges, on the launch for the book, Make Us All Islands. For the Department of Information and Public Relations, I have been your GIS host, Bria Smith. Remember, for all your official government news and latest updates, visit the government website at www.bvi.gov.vg or follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter at BVI Government.